Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be back with the deck Memoirs series here in episode 2. We're going to be doing Gardevoir. It's going to be 2017 Worlds. This specific list is going to be very, very similar to Diego Casiraga's list. They won Worlds 2017, and that's what this Gardevoir deck list is for. It's for the World 2017 format. And it's definitely a very, very powerful deck. It is a one-shot deck. Gardevoir-GX is a card that can one-shot a lot of Pokemon GX. Remember, Pokemon Tag Team had not actually been revealed yet or released yet, which meant Pokemon GX still ruled the format. Things like Gardevoir-GX, Gardevoir-GX, and TCG were very, very, very good cards. But also we had stuff like Gardevoir and this specific Gardevoir-GX, and the card itself has a built-in Gardevoir counter, which is one of the reasons that Diego probably played it and why it won the entire tournament. So without further ado, let's get into this Gardevoir-GX deck and see how it works. Starting off, we have 3 copies of Gardevoir-GX. Of course, the main attacker of the deck. Definitely a top-tier card here. We have an ability, Secret Spring. Once during a turn, you may attach a fairy energy from your hand to win your Pokemon. So pretty nice ability right there. Just get an extra energy attachment. But then we have an attack, Infinite Force. 1 fairy energy, 30 times. This attack is 30 damage for each energy attached to both that Pokemon. So kind of like a buff. The attack is kind of like a buffed version of Tapu Lele GX's attack as well. But we also the collector energies for it, which made with Gardevoir-GX very, very good. Infinite Force being able to do 60 for a single DC on here. And then Secret Spring, of course, you get that extra energy attachment onto to build it up even that faster. But we also have a GX attack here. Twilight GX. For 1 fairy energy, you get to shuffle 10 cards from your discard into your deck. Now, it might seem a little underwhelming at first. Hey, I get 10 cards back. Once I guess I can get my rare candies, maybe a couple fairy energies to accelerate. But the main reason that GX attack is so very, very good is because of Gardevoir. Gardevoir was a menace, and was a menace for pretty much ever since it was in the format. It's been it was a very, very good card. But Gardevoir kind of had its own package. There was a Gardevoir package. Then Gardevoir, the main Gardevoir, I almost said Gardevoir. The main Gardevoir was the attacking one. For a psychic energy, you did 20 damage to each item card in your opponent's discard pile. So if you had 8 item cards in your opponent's discard pile, you could hit 160 for 1 energy on a single price stage 1. And keep in mind, 160 was really, really good at the time because plus a choice band, you're paying 190, which is knocking out a lot of basic GX's stuff, like Lapras GX. Actually, no, you're not. Yeah, you're not, but pretty sure you're not getting Lapras GX, but you just knock out a whole bunch of stuff. And, a lot of decks are going to have 8 item cards. They're going to have a lot more than 8 item cards. They're maybe going to have 10 or maybe upwards of 10 item cards. You're going to be hitting a lot of damage with the Gardevoir. You're not even putting Choice Band into account yet. So definitely a really, really good card. But also to supplement that Gardevoir, we also had a second Gardevoir, so it didn't take up any extra deck space other than the one that you were playing. And there's an ability lock Gardevoir that had an ability called Gardevoir Toxin that if it had a tool attached to it, all Pokemon in play had no abilities for Gardevoir Toxin. So basically, you just shut off all the abilities. Gardevoir would have no more Secret Spring. What else? Tapu Lele would have no more Wonder Tag. The TCG would have no more Feather Arrow. So definitely a very, very powerful effect. But Twilight GX here, back to the Gardevoir-GX. You get to shuffle 10 cards from your discard pile back into your deck, which means if you shuffle 10 item cards, you're basically just reducing that Gardevoir's damage output by 200, which is crazy. So that's the reason that this Gardevoir is so good. It had a really good ability, a one-shot attack, and a GX attack that countered one of the best cards in the format at the time. We have 3 copies of Kirlia. Now, it's not kind of surprised. We're not playing the typical stage 2 that you see now. Nowadays, we see 4 of the basic, 1 of the stage 1, and then 4 of the stage 2. We're actually only playing a 4-3-3 here. Because back when stage 2s were the format, stage 1 and evolutions were the format's a lot slower, which means you had time to evolve into your stage 1 and then into into your stage 2. You weren't forced to take a super aggressive route with rare candies and your like maximum amount of stage 2s. You could be a little bit more passive in the early 2 or 3 turns of the game. So thus you could play more of your stage 1s because you weren't like forced to get out your stage 2 as early as turn 2 here. Also, rare candy was not easily searchable back then. We didn't have things like the Danny or Crobat. The best we had was Tapu Lele, which only searched as a supporter. It didn't even get to draw cards on its own. It still used that for supporter at the time. It was a Pokemon that could search out your supporter, so you could search out like Ultra Ball. So that's why we can play the stage 1. Next, we have 4 copies of the Ralts. Just because, your only like search out was Ultra Ball, and you want to save those for getting your evolutions and your Tapu Lele. So 4 copies of Ralts, you can draw into those maximum chance. Because it's still your main attacker, you still should play 4 of your basic evolution. We have 3 copies of Gardevoir-GX, which has the Wonder Tag ability that when you bench it from your hand, you get to search out for a supporter card and put it in your hand. So this one search out any Pokemon or any supporter card that you want to. If you need to get a new hand, okay, Sycamore. If you want to punish your opponent for taking prize cards really early, okay, then get an N. If you want to Gust, then get a Guzma. If you want to Ability Lock, then get a Hexmaniac. If you want to do more damage, get a Professor Kukui. If you want to search out your Ralts all in one go, then get a Bridget. So Tapu Lele was definitely a very, very powerful card, and could, with one Ultra Ball, get you basically anything you needed in your deck. Cards, damage, ability lock. It can do a lot of different stuff. So Tapu Lele is very, very good. Next, we have a 2-1 line of Abyssal Hand Artillery. This is actually the original pretty good artillery we had because it has the ability Abyssal Hand. One thing turn, you may draw 5 cards in your hand. So this allows you to do is just say you had to Tapu Lele to end yourself to a low hand side, but you also, let's say you play Tapu Lele to end yourself to 2, but you also got to end your opponent to 1. Then I just realized that you cannot see fully, so I'm just going to move kind of a little bit more that way. So this means that artillery will be able to fill up your hand again if you had to end yourself low, and if you also just have a low hand in general, so that can help. It's actually worth noting, I've been playing this up against the TCG deck. Ion Pool is actually an attack I've used. Let's see, for 1 card, which is discard a stadium card and play. So I actually use this against the Decidueye deck because the Decidueye really relies on their stadium card for the Giant Plants. For the Giant Plants just ignores the evolution rule for grass Pokemon when it's in play. Most grass decks did play 4 Giant Plants base. Decks did play 4 copies of Force Giant Plants, but sometimes if you like an N in combination with a Ion Pool, I gotta get rid of that. And I also think Ceramic can also be kind of like a buffer where you set up your Gardevoirs too. So definitely, I've actually used Ion Pool, which is really interesting. Going into one of the cards, we have 3 copies of one of those. We have 1 copy of Gallade, which also can evolve from Curlius, keep that in mind. But this Gallade is actually it's a really good card, actually. We have an ability for Premonition. You can look to that 5 cards deck and rearrange them in any order. So you use Premonition, get the 2 cards that you want, and then Abyssal Hand to those cards. And we also have Previous Attacker, Sensitive Blade, 2 colors energy, so you can use DCE. It does 60 damage, and if you play it before this turn, it does 70 more damage. So you can do 130 damage for 1 DC, which is pretty decent. And keep in mind, since you played 3 copies of Gardevoir-GX and 4 Ultra Ball, you're going to be playing a supporter most of your turns. So that 1 copy of Gallade, instead of doing 60 damage, plus a choice band for 90, which is actually done decent. Back then, 90 is actually not bad, because maybe you can finish it off with a little bit less energy Gardevoir here. Sensitive Blade can do a decent amount of damage. You can do like 150 plus damage, which is really not bad, and also a pretty good ability too in combination with your artillery. So we got a copy of the Gallade with Premonition. We have 1 copy of Alolan Vulpix. Of course, this is one of those special Alolan Pokemon that can attack for free. This one has Beacon for free, so if you attack for up to 2 Pokemon, put them in your hand. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we're only playing 3 copies. We're actually not only. We're playing 3 copies of our stage 1 instead of just like 1 and 4 rare candies, because since we can be a little bit more passive in the early turns of the game, we can have time to search out those stage 1. Well, guess what? Vulpix is here to search out those stage 1s in the early phases of the game, so that kind of fulfills that purpose. And we have 1 copy of Diancie as well, which has an attack Sparkling Wish. You get to search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon and then put it on that Pokemon to evolve it. So you get to just immediately turn one. If you start with this, you can just attach Fairy Energy, and the Sparkling Wish immediately evolve when you're evolved into a Curly, ready to evolve into Gardevoir next turn. That's an attack here. We have Diamond Storm, 30 damage, and you heal 30 damage from each of your Fairy Pokemon. So what this can do is actually not bad at, once again, against Decidueye. A choice span on here, you'll be doing 50, which isn't bad. It's a 50 poke. You'll be able to finish up with the Gardevoir later. But Diamond Storm does heal your Gardevoir some like early for the arrow snipes that the Decidueye deck may be getting off. We have 4 copies of Professor Sycamore. This card draw 7, basically Professor's Research. Once again, just like Professor Research is now, Professor Sycamore is still one of the best supporter-based draw that there is in the game. And of course, we have Tapu Lele to consistently search out your Professor Sycamore as well. 3 copies of N, which makes each player shuffle his or her hand into his or depth, and then draw a card for each of his or her prize cards. So you can play an N. Say your opponent is doing very, very well. You can kind of breaking your opponent's like 2 prize cards left, and you still have 6. Well, then you can get yourself 6 new cards and put your opponent all the way down to 2 cards, and maybe make it so they can brick from there, and they won't be able to do much on their following turn. So 3 copies, and it's all one thing at searchable Tapu Lele. We have 3 copies of Yuzuna, which is Bothazord, and switch in 1 card. So allows you to like, okay, so I'm just gonna gradually set up my Gardevoir-GX over here, and you're gonna be gradually setting up your Lapras-GX over here. Well, now my Gardevoir-GX is ready. Oh, I can play Guzma, bring up your Lapras, and I get to pick up my own Gardevoir. So it's like really like an aggressive version of Boss's Orders or Lysander. And we have 3 of course, we have 1 copy of Bridget, which lets you search your deck for 1 basic Pokemon EX or 3 Pokemon basic Pokemon and put them on your bench directly. So search out GX is still going to search out your Tapu Lele if you really want to just put that directly on your bench. But most importantly, it can just search out 3 basic Pokemon, put them on your bench. So you can use turn 1 just Ultra Ball, discard 2 cards, get a Tapu Lele, play Tapu Lele, use Wonder Tag to get out 3 Ralts, and then there you go, you have 3 Ralts ready to go. Maybe you evolve into Gardevoir or Candy use in the following turns. We have 1 copy of Hexamaniac, which makes it so until the end of your opponent's next turn, all Pokemon play in the hand and in the scrap pile of no abilities. So this allows you to turn off things like Tapu Lele, things like Feather Arrow. Say the Gardevoir is really, really close to being knocked out, and your opponent doesn't have an attacker going, but they do have some Feather Arrows, and they can knock out those Feather Arrows. And you just need to get a couple more hits for Gardevoir. I know it sounds like a kind of crazy scenario, but trust me, it's not. It probably will come up a decent amount of times. On Hexmania, can just turn off the Feather Arrows, and then there you go. You're free to go. Your Gardevoir, which hopefully won't get knocked out again. We have 1 copy of Professor Kukui. Now, there's actually a card that wasn't played in the original, in Diego Casiraga's original list, but I really like Professor Kukui here in combination with Premonition, because you won't always be able to get out auxiliary. Maybe you don't have the time to Ultra Ball for it. You don't get the prize, stuff like that. I like to be able to just Premonition and then Professor Kukui use it because you don't have very many just straight like draw 3 cards. So I think Professor Kukui is the best version of that we can play here, better than like a How, because How gets you 3 cards, but Professor Kukui only gets you 2. But then you also get to do an extra 20 damage, which can really matter, especially with your delayed damage and like knock out like a Tapu Lele with your delayed with sensitive blade. So I really like the 1 copy of Professor Kukui in combination Premonition, setting up math with things. Okay, so we have no stadium cards, so we're just going to move right on to the item cards. For Ultra Ball, which is probably the best item card search we've ever gotten, ever. Lets you discard 2 cards from your hand, and then if you do, you get to search your deck for a Pokemon. It's any Pokemon, so you can get both basic Pokemon and evolution Pokemon, both GX and non-GX. Yeah, it's just the best search we've ever gotten. You can get out Tapu Lele for like a Bridget. You can get out your Gardevoir to start using Secret Spring and Infinite Force. Really good card. We have 4 copies of Versus Seeker, which lets you put a support card from your discard pile back in your hand. Once again, pairing with that delayed sensitive blade. But also can create the cycle with Tapu Lele. You can Tapu Lele out your supporter that you want to use and then keep Versus Seekering it back. If you run out of it, okay, maybe you have a second one, great, you can Tapu Lele for it again. But also these 4 Versus Seekers also just let you reuse your your one of supporters. Like maybe you want to use multiple times in a match, like X-Me against the CBY or something like that. I talked about this earlier, how it seemed that weird that we're not playing full 4 candies like mini stage decks now. But like I mentioned, things are a lot less aggressive in this format, which means we can afford to play like a little bit less rare candies because we can manually evolve for Gardevoir. So we got 3 copies of the rare candy, and then 2 copies of Choice Band, which make Pokemon attack you do an initial 30 damage to your opponent's GX and EX Pokemon in the active spot. So I cannot describe how good Choice Band is. There's, right now with VMAXs, if Choice Band existed for V Pokemon, it would be kind of broken just because of the sheer amount of damage that they can do. You can kind of see this reflecting with our GX card over here because our Gardevoir can hit a lot of damage very, very easily. So being able to attack that Choice Band and do an additional 30 damage, even with things like Alolan Vulpix for DC, you do 30, I mean 20, but if you increase it with Choice Band, you do 50. And that's when that damage can actually matter. Like Choice Band makes these little like pokes like actually matter, which is really, really cool. I definitely think that's really, really good. But if Choice Band was in the format right now, these next Pokemon like Eternatus would definitely utilize it to just take some huge one shots. It would be really, really powerful. A couple one-item cards break into our energies. Copy Super Rod, which lets you shuffle 3 in any combination of Pokemon based energy from your discard pile back in your deck, so you can get back Gardevoirs and Curlios and some fairy energy to re-accelerate with Giga Spring. So yeah, 1 copy Super Rod, copy of Rescue Structure with lets you put you either get to put a Pokemon directly from your discard pile into your hand, or you get to shuffle 3 Pokemon from your discard pile back into your deck. So this can be used to just go ahead and either grab Gardevoir-GX directly from your discard pile back in your hand to evolve it, or can just shuffle 3 back in your deck. 3 Pokemon back into your deck, so a little bit more powerful, but they do go back in your deck instead of directly to your hand. So maybe you're really hurting for some Gardevoir-GXs and more Curlias. Like maybe you prize like 1 or 2 of them, then that's when Rescue Structure shuffling in will come in handy. We have 1 copy of Field Blower because that Gardevoir that I talked about way at the beginning can be very, very good for you, or very, very bad for you. Because it turns off your Secret Spring, it turns off your Abyssal Hand, it turns off your Premonition, it turns off Wonder Tag, it just turns off so many of your really, really good abilities that you rely on. And so Field Blower can get rid of that tool card on the Gardevoir, because Gardevoir doesn't only works with a tool card on it, so that Field Blower can just get rid of that. And then going into our energies, we have 4 copies of Double Colorless Energy, because 1 DC on your Gardevoir, that's an additional 60 damage. 60 damage is a decent amount of damage in this format, so yep. We have 1 copy of Wonder Energy, which makes the fairy Pokemon it's attached to prevent all effects of your opponent's attacks except damage done to it. So I didn't do enough research. Going to be honest, I didn't do enough research and play back then when all these cards were legal. So I'm not 100% sure what Wonder Energy would be good against, but I'm sure there is a reason that Diego did play it in his list. Then we have 7 copies of Basic Fairy Energy to round out the Gardevoir list. So now, I don't know why, but the first episode and the second episode, I've always started here. Like, I think it's going to go I think the deck's going to go all the way over here, which actually not. So I'm just going to scoop the mat that way. And you starting with the cards more like around here now. But yeah, that's gonna do it for the Gardevoir-GX deck and episode 2 of Deck Memoirs. I definitely like this deck. It's really good. Obviously, one world just means must be good, right? So yeah, I mentioned I liked Professor Kukui for the premonition synergy there. And if you want to try version with 4 rare candy, I guess that would be pretty decent, especially if you're trying like a legacy tournament. Yeah, that's going to do it for today's episode of Deck Memoirs, episode 2 here with Gardevoir-GX 2017 Worlds. Yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. If you guys like the series, don't forget to leave a like. And if you guys don't want to miss the other episodes, then don't forget to subscribe. I did a video a couple days ago for Pikarom for this series, so definitely if you haven't seen that one and liked the series, go check that one out. But yeah, that's going to do it. Hope you guys liked it. See you